If there's one thing I've realized about myself during my whole YouTube journey, it's the fact that I have a small flaw that I kind of hate myself for: laziness. And because of this frustration, well, actually, let me say before that there are some negatives a YouTuber could have that's way worse than being lazy. That being said, it made me reflect on some games that I really wanted to make videos of, you know, from last year to this year, and I just wanted to make a video of those, you know, games that I really wanted to discuss that I never got to. And our first game worth mentioning is... If you have perused my channel, then this game shouldn't be a complete blindside. Well, looking past the thumbnail, of course. Pathfinder Kingmaker, Owlcat's previous project and also the first, ended up becoming my game of the previous decade. A CRPG with a wild amount of choices and consequences, great presentation and wonderful writing. It did help that I got into this game years after its release, considering the bugginess of when it came out, and one thing I've learned after having played Wrath and another game we're going to soon discuss later in the video, Owlcat knows how to challenge Bethesda when it comes to buggy releases, cause woof, it was hard. That being said, I do not regret supporting them on Kickstarter because my god was this an amazing experience. Where's my collector's edition, Owlcat? While not having the same game length like the previous Pathfinder experience, the replayability is insane. Already I've gone through this game 4 times, and the primary reason for why it is so amazing is what they call mythic paths. Changing up the story and playstyle through awesome mythical power sets. My first character being a blood rager demon, who through his great rage destroyed everything in his path, craving only pleasure and power. My second character was an angelic cavalier, riding into battle with his mighty steed, Lord Ragnar, named after my old doggo, bringing justice and righteousness to the country of Mendev. Third was a necromancer queen, and fourth being a trickster who laughed in the face of the developers. Yes, you can actually go that route, and you can actually make that happen. And just with Kingmaker, that had like a kingdom management system, a mechanic where you could, you know, utilize and make the kingdom your own, have choices and consequences, Wrath of the Righteous holds Crusade mode, which is, for the lack of better words, sort of a inspiration copy from Heroes of Might and Magic, considering that lots of the developers from Owlcat made the 5th one. This is the 4th one. I couldn't find my box for number 5. Sure, it doesn't have the same mechanical and systematic depth as Harm. I still really like it. Thing is, Kingmaker and Wrath of the Righteous to me is what Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 were for those who grew up with it in the 90s. It just means so much to me, and looking past the bugginess and the horrid releases that Owlcat has a tendency to do, I love these games, I really do. And speaking of old school adventures... Started from the bottom and I'll never look back. I never really got into this iconic series until this installment. Sure, I had played some Street Fighter 2 on the Game Boy, but the only thing I really got out of that was the enjoyment of Ken's theme and my personal favorite, Balrog's Casino. Plus, Street Fighter V was Street Fighter V. I did get some enjoyment out of it, but man, that thing released during Capcom's Dark Ages. It's also the game that I'm most frustrated with when it comes to the fact that I didn't review it, because I finished the script. And to give you an idea for how long ago that was, let me read an excerpt from it. As I am currently waiting for the next DLC fighter, Aki. We're in Season 2 now. Street Fighter 6 has probably become my second favorite fighting game of all time. The mechanics are so much fun, and when I finally found my character, the just mentioned Chinese assassin, the franchise just clicked for me. Fantastic single-player content, a netcode that feels as if the gods themselves blasted with unholy incantation, and gameplay mechanics that are just right up my alley. I will admit, my first few hours with this game online was actual hell, though. I have recorded footage where I am continuously losing for 4 hours straight against random people. Luckily, after that, I understood it, if that makes sense. Most of the things I've heavily criticized in the original script has been altered through the updates and DLC releases by Capcom. One of the big nitpicks of mine was the lack of a jukebox to customize the music you can listen to while fighting, and they added that. Hell yeah! While I'm not fond of some of the prices for the optional stuff they are selling, this game is just so fun to boot up and play a few rounds with my friends. That being said, the developers really hit this one out of the park, and I'm just so excited to try out Bison and to see how my looks in the RE engine. Speaking of RE engine! This one is actually pretty interesting, as I didn't particularly wanted to make a review for the game as a whole, but more compare and discuss the story differences to the original. If you guys are interested in such a video, please write it down below, let me know, but damn, this game was truly a joy in its gameplay. Every remake from Capcom on this series has been a joy to play through, but just like the OG version, it is number 4 that once again feels special among the crowd, making the combat just a pure, amazing bliss of enjoying, making the knife an actual combat tool to use in parrying and also have some special fights that feel so awesome using only that, making the blade in the original just feel so underutilized. I also had this great fear that they would remove the ridiculousness slash stupid stuff, like the contextual martial art moves, but nope, still here. That being said, I do still prefer the 2005 game because of the tonal differences they fundamentally changed in the writing to make it fit more with the remake. Having the villains be far more diabolical and cold than their previous counterpart isn't, you know, it isn't as funny.
Can't remember the name, huh? A senior moment, perhaps.
But it's not like it's a full D grade either, it's just a side grade. It's different. Even if I'm not the biggest fan of Krauser's character change, he feels as if from something completely different, like a 80s movie or something like that. Ada also is a bit of a miss for me. I really enjoy a new design, but I will be spending too much time discussing it. Again, if you care about it, I would make that other video. Still, the ending and the DLC heavily leans on the idea of having another game, a remake of the 5th installment. They really are pushing the RE engine to the heavens, aren't they? And speaking of RE engine... No, wait a minute, that's a bit of a deja vu, isn't it? Speaking of deja vu... The most recent game on this list. The first Dragon's Dogma was a special experience that you really couldn't find anywhere else. So the fact that it took 12 stinking years for a sequel to come out was a drag, but hey, that means that they could have made it even better, right? Than the first adventure? Right? Right? Weird thing is that everything that I would praise about the 2012 game, I would praise here. Yet everything I would be negative and criticize about the 2012 game, I would be negative and criticize here as well. It's almost as if the developers didn't care about learning from their past mistakes and just wanted to make the same game again with better graphics and some minute gameplay changes. And the weird thing is the fact that Dragon's Dogma 2 is on its way to be my current game of the year. It's just weird. The entire selling point of this franchise is the combat and how you interact with the many monsters, with your NPC companions whose AI learned through playtime and actions called pawns by your side. And my first playthrough of this game, that lasted roughly 80-ish hours, was one of those playthroughs that felt special, you know? I don't think I have played a game with such a feeling of adventure since... I can't even remember, in all honesty. Finding online pawns made by other players around the world, taking them with you like a party, camping at night to regain full health, facing massive monsters that you had to climb and utilize strategies to take down, gaining a connection with your main pawn. Allow me to say that in my opinion, Dragon's Dogma's party system with how it works in gameplay is my favorite I've ever experienced when it comes to party members that are AI controlled. It is a special system and I just really want them to keep deepening the mechanics in future releases or DLCs or whatever. Just such a great thing, you know? Yes, they can absolutely make stupid decisions, and there are times where they just falter completely, but I can look past those moments when the really great stuff happens. So the primary experience with DD2 is something to behold, but the negatives are not only disappointing as a fan, but extremely frustrating for someone who has been waiting for so long, holding on hope that the devs would learn. The story starts off really interesting, political intrigue with a frosting of destiny and prophecy, but when you think that the second act is done, the game is just close to the finish line, just like the original. The presentation of this game is also top tier. The visuals and audio work here is something that is perfect for me. I really hope that they will come out with an expansion like Dark Arisen, because there's such a severe lack of enemy variety, there is no hard mode or scaling for New Game Plus, making me not want to replay it, as it's too easy to just one-shot anything. And the great joy about this series is the fighting great monsters and that you're like fighting uphill. It's so great. I don't know, it's just a bit frustrating in all those regards. I will say, I do also hope, I think, not gonna happen, but I'd still hope that the DLC or expansion will also add more to the vanilla game. It could be replayed for years if they just fix it a bit and make some tweaks. It's so important to me that this works, because I really like this game. Anyways, rambling aside, I did not really come across any bugs or glitches, like I did with the next game on the list. Whew. Hi again, Owlcat. So I'm gonna really quickly go through this one. Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader was my introduction into the 40k universe, and as a gateway to this series, I will say that it did an amazing job. The grim dark world, the many races, the glory of humanity! It has the quality writing I have come to expect from Owlcat, it has the interesting and creative characters that I have come to expect from Owlcat, and my god, it has double the amount of issues that I expected from Owlcat! I really wish I had gameplay to show you, but I kinda gave up on my first playthrough after the 70-hour mark, because when I hit chapter 4, or act 4, the game literally broke apart for me. I did not want to play it anymore, because I knew that I would dislike the game. Like it would leave such a bad taste in my mouth that I would never return to it. So I haven't finished it, it's still unfinished, and while I know that they have had their updates and patches, I'm still waiting to know when it's just pristine, you know? It sucks, but that's just how it is. Yeah, I've been hard at work, updating and patching through blood and sweat, but yeah, I'm still gonna wait for some time until I retry this thing. I like the void ship mechanic gameplay. I feel the regular combat can be a bit too simple and easy. Seriously, when I gave Argenta that minigun, whew, yeah, just wanted to say that I feel like this one can be a really good game eventually, but Owlcat, I love your games, but man, you need to improve the stability during release. Finally, we have a golden egg that many people thought would fail because of the stumbling development news that we got for some years.
I'll make you a deal.
I adore System Shock 2, and I've always wanted to finish that very first installment, but I just couldn't overcome the old school interface and keybind stuff. And to the rescue, Night Dive Studio made a remake. The labyrinthine old school level design with modern controls is pure cream in gaming. Having to explore a space station that holds traps and enemies everywhere, finding hundreds of audio logs to gather clues on not only what happened, but also what to do in certain puzzles, all while trying to survive one of the best video game antagonists of all time, Shodan.
You move like an insect. You think like an insect. You are an insect.
Please step on me! The visuals they went with, I am so happy that they chose to go that direction. Having the look of the classic boxy scenery while glowing like a nightclub in cyber heaven. Even the first-person hacking minigame I find fun, which I was not the biggest fan of in the 94 game. Honestly, if I had made a review of System Shock, it would just be me gushing about it. It is so fascinating how Night Dive seemingly had so many issues during development, and yet it turned out this fantastic. I don't get it. But at this point, I just don't care as well. I love this game. The question now is, of course, do I want a remake from Night Dive of System Shock 2? And in that regard, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think it really needs it. The first one was so difficult to get into, so having the remake of that one just makes sense in my opinion, and it's amazing, it's perfect, and I really like it. The only thing I really want when it comes to System Shock is the third installment, but considering that development of that has pretty much gone completely cold, and even Warren Spector has left that project, yeah. That being said, we have the remake here, makes me happy, and Night Dive is coming out with an enhanced edition of System Shock 2, which for me is just the perfect cream on top, and I'm so excited to replay that one. Again, to remind you, if you're interested, I absolutely would be willing to make that Resident Evil 4 OG versus remake comparison in focus on narrative and story, because when I made that In the Mind of Leon, I got a really great enjoyment out of RE4 OG, and I think there's a lot to talk about. So if you're interested in that, then please write it down below. I keep spitting everywhere, but yeah. Until then, I'm KingJGrim, or the guy who's trying to use his green screen as much as possible now. Whatever you prefer, and I'll see you guys next time! And that being said, Dragon's Dogma do... No! Alright.